Hi, everyone. How are you? How are you on this Saturday? How many of you stayed up for me and Kelly's slumber party on her channel, What's the Obsession? Huh? That was quite the journey we went through. And she had that episode titled that it was going to be the truth. We were going to see who dropped the ball and that the truth was going to hurt. So it was framed up like that. And I think that when people began to see what that really means, they didn't like it. Um, I think Kelly is such an amazing and giving person, and I just admire her work so much, and I can't imagine how many lives she affects every day with how she is just so kind and present and smart and articulate and helps the families with children who have special needs, and people really need specialists who are committed and dedicated to their work. It's a tough job, and she's not paid to equal what she does. I mean, I just, I am humbled by her kindness. I think she's the kindest person in the world. Um, as you all heard, she has a lot more patience than I do. Um, I know that some things are what people don't want to hear. The truth right now, in that case, is too hard. It's too hard to hear. It really is. As this is the anniversary, I don't want to touch on that subject today. Um, as in as I looked at a couple of, because I couldn't follow the chat as I was going, I saw it was the one that came after me earlier in the week, the guinea pig humper. Yeah, she was the one coming after me again, and I checked her channel again. She's got one subscriber, and I don't see her content. She hasn't uploaded a video. And then the other one who just says the same thing over and over. It has ever since, you know, ever since I've started commenting on anything. But I really feel like there was a breakthrough, because after she got past the one thing where she always says, she said something to the effect of, well, I didn't think they were actually locked in their rooms. And that was kind of a breakthrough, because I think that some people, they get kind of in an echo chamber. Kind of an echo chamber is where what you think gets echoed back to you. So you go to places where they're going to say the same thing. They're going to be a yes man. And you're going to hear, yes, yes, what you're saying is true. And yes, yes, what you're saying is true. And everybody likes that, to be disagreed with. It's uncomfortable. And so I think that it became increasingly aware that while I was being criticized, it's because I've actually done further research in the uncomfortable topics of discussion. And I examine all of the possible theories out there. And some don't. And they really stick with the narrative, and they'll go a little bit out of their comfort zone, but not enough. Not enough to really look at it. And that's what's going on, and change is uncomfortable. Even if you're just moving, you're moving out of your house for the first time. It's change. It's the unknown, and the unknown is intimidating, and it's scary. And this subject is no different. It's like when people go out of their comfort zones, they find something that they might not like, that they might find uncomfortable, that doesn't line up with what they thought, and then how do they go back from what they had previously said and whatnot. So there was some dynamics in that chat that they had to go. Like I say, I am a lone ranger in this. Many of you heard me when I first was going on the channel, and I was not welcomed. You guys heard me get scrutinized, and I tried to prove my point, but in the end, that person believes that I'm a scumbag attacker, apparently. And the last time I was on the panel, she muted and blocked me. And I still don't understand. And that's hurtful. It's very hurtful. But here I am alone, and I will stand alone with calling out the truth for what it is. If others are too uncomfortable to call a spade, I'll show them it's a spade and take pictures of it and show them how it works. I mean, we can't keep cushioning the brutal truth. Okay? So like I say, I'm a Lone Ranger. I started out and I got kicked in the face, you know? From a huge channel. I mean, Mensa is a huge channel. And she kicked me to the fucking curb because she thinks that I'm untrustworthy, that I'm a scumbag attacker, I guess, because she hadn't heard from me before. I don't know. I can't speak to why she did what she did to me. And it was uncomfortable, but it's okay because it's instead of me, you know, I would have been happy to have been just on her panel occasionally and speaking. But because she kicked me out of her world, I started my own channel. And it's given me my voice back. And I need that. And I hope that when I speak out, I inspire somebody else to speak out. And people have their own opinions on this. For everybody who comes at me or comes at anybody else, I hope that when, you know, I go to your page, that I can go and listen to your 20-minute thing about how you think this happened and what you think of it, so that I can really know where you're coming from. But if you just come for me, you know, and do this and whatever, it's like, okay, you know, I'm rating it a 96% positive and 4% negative. That's better than a jury trial of my peers. I mean, people look at the Casey Anthony case and they're like, how could Casey Anthony have gotten off? Well, look at this case and look at what is proven. And for a long time, people said, well, there's no proof of that. There's no proof of that. You can't lean on that anymore. The truth is out, and the truth is in their own words. And she became a public figure the moment that she filmed herself and put herself out there. Public figures are open to public scrutiny. And it happens to me. It's happened in the past. I am not a spring chicken. I, you know, used to write for a reality show just on Facebook, you know, not like an actual column or anything like that. And it became very divided on who liked this character and who liked that character and blah, 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 blah. And once I became like, you know, as long as I was like a commenter, I was fine. But the second that I was brought up to be one of the writers, and I wrote my own little, you know, summation of how the episode went and whatnot, I was raw meat in front of a pack of tigers. I mean, I woke up one day to my personal Facebook being hacked, and they took my picture and put big, gross, open, disgusting herpes lesions all over my face on my Facebook profile. I was like, what do I do? I had to go grab a teenager quick and be like, how do I get unhacked? What do I do? Oh my God. Right? You know, I mean, and that was just minor. I mean, that's child's play. I mean, the people out here trolling, and this is their entertainment, you know. And I guess if I can provide somebody their entertainment, you know, I want to put a bunch of freaking disgusting ass crusty herpes sores all over my face on my picture, my Facebook picture, so I wake up, I can be like, oh Lord, what kind of filter is that? You know, I mean, what? I mean, that's what they do, and that's who they are. And, you know, it is what it is. So anyway, I wanted to thank you all, because I couldn't see the chat. I think that was probably good. But as I look back and people who I care for are sending me, some of the things that were said and whatnot, I see that I had people holding me up. I spoke the truth. I felt I was speaking the truth, and I felt the strength behind what I was saying. And that is because of all of you that were in there saying, she's not wrong. She's telling the truth, that they have seen it too. And that when we're all on the same page, maybe everybody will understand. But it means so much to me that you all had my back. I'm grateful. Absolutely grateful. And as I see the kind things that you guys are saying in the little community that we're developing on my channel, and I see how you guys are developing conversations within each other and finding commonalities with each other and talking, you guys are amazing. And you guys are helping each other. Because I will give you guys stories of my life. And that's what I think people don't understand, is that they're going, oh yeah, well, how would you like your life under a microscope and critiqued? Well, it is every day. What do you think I'm doing here? If I put myself out here, everything I've ever done in my life is going to be exposed. The trolls are going to have a heyday with it. I mean, it is what it is. I'm taking that risk because I believe it's worth it. Because I believe that the truth is yet to be told in so many things. And thank you all. I like I say, when I have the time to be, really engaged and focused, I will look at my comments so that I can make sure that, I'm looking at, how this was answered, how this one was there, how this one did that, because then I know each of you and I like to know how each of you is seeing things, so that then when I can go live and your comments come up, I know that, oh, okay, this is where you said this and you said that, and your background comes from here, and this is how you felt about this, so that then I can, invite you up and say, hey, what do you want to say about how you saw this in this way, because I like this, it made me think. So thank you for all standing there and being there with me. I really appreciate it more than you'll ever know. Now, in the news this week, there's been a lot of talk about school shootings, as there are one is too many. So I don't want to say there's too many school shootings. One is too many. Okay? And right now, the news has a lot to say about school shootings, because the sentencing for Nicholas Cruz is coming up. His trial is televised, and his first interviews are there, and I think that we need to really examine the school shooters that are still alive, to find out how to prevent them in the future. And I watched the original interview with Nicholas Cruz where he was trying his best to act crazy. He's in a hospital gown, so it must have been like, the day that it happened, after the hospital cleared him. And there was a detective in there and an older guy, and this older guy must have been watching Nicholas punch himself and talk to himself, when he thought he was on camera, and then stop when he didn't think anybody was looking, etc., etc. And this guy comes in, and he's like, okay, Nicholas, we need to talk about this. And, Nicholas was like, and he's like, no, you need to talk. I'm old. I've got to hear you. You need to say what your name is. You're like, no, what's your name? What's your birthday? Month were you born? And he's like, son, I need you to talk so that I can hear you. And the kid is still trying to really, really work the insanity aspect. And this older father-like man nips it in the butt And he says, knock it off. You are cleared from the medical professionals. There's nothing wrong with you. I need to get this information out. I need to get the basic information of who you are and what happened. And then we'll go from there. And he started a little bit, but then he said, Nick says, well, I want to talk to a psychologist. And the older, wiser detective father man says, that may be at some point, but right now you're talking to me. And this is part of the process. And son, you need to talk to me. And we need to start talking. And I will get you some water. And I'll get myself some water. And we need to talk. We need to start developing the facts. And what has happened has happened. And right now we're here. And right now I need you to talk to me. And he kept really enforcing that. And I really appreciated the way that that detective took that father figure stance with him. He was compassionate while being firm. And made it known that he wasn't buying the bullshit. And so Nicholas was 19 at the time that he walked into Stoneman Douglas High School and injured 17 and killed 17. It was February 14th of 2019. He had a Smith & Wesson Sport II semi-automatic rifle. He went over to the McDonald's after the shooting. He got away and he walked over just like all the kids were. And probably unknowing to him, definitely unknowing to the young man, he sat down next to a classmate, young man, at the McDonald's and said, "Can I get a ride home with you?" And the guy's like, "No." And he's like, I really need to get a ride. Can your mom not give me a ride?" He's like, "No, we all got out of here. It's all chaotic. My mom's picking me up." And he's like, "I need a ride." And the guy said, "No." Thankfully so, because as everything unfolded, it turned out that young man was soon to find out that his sister was one of the students shot. She was shot at least 3 times. There he was sitting with him afterwards. Kind of hard to get that insanity plea when you leave the scene of the massacre that you just committed and you have the wherewithal to go over to McDonald's, sit with a classmate, and ask him to let him get a ride with his mom. As the father's detective spoke, Nicholas, looking down, talked about his very absent family. As it came out, Nicholas was an orphan. He said that his dad had been killed and his mom died of COVID, but it wasn't very clear. He said something like that. And then it sounded like he'd been adopted. There was something in there, that wasn't real clear, but what was clear is that this kid was on his own. And he had worked at the Dollar Tree for 2 years with no problems. So he was responsible. He was able to get to work every day, be self-supporting. And like I say, when he did this, he was 19 at the time. now due to COVID and whatnot, courts not being open and whatnot. He's 23 years old now, and finally we're going through the trial. Now, he pled guilty, but they're going through the whole trial, the whole hearing, as it should be done, even when somebody pleads guilty, so that there aren't the questions later on. So right now, that's in the news. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that I am so glad that I don't have children in school anymore, because they are sitting ducks. They are absolute sitting ducks. I don't even want to go into what happened in the Uvalde shooting. I don't know how to look at those body cams and see the cowardly behavior of those officers. One of the surviving teachers feels such guilt, as he said that other parents had lost one child. He lost all of the children that he had in the classroom. One of the doors was propped open because it was a day for fun and celebrating. It was the end of the school year. There were ceremonies going back and forth, and because of that propped door, that shooter was able to gain access when it should have been locked down like they had practiced. Even out here, when my kids were in a grade school, they had went through and retro safety fitted all of the front doors, and you had to be buzzed in by them seeing you and recognizing you to come in. And it was a pretty expensive upgrade, and it was great. And that was the way that the kids were supposed to come in. If they were driven, they were to come in that way. If they were coming in by bus, they went to another specific door. So imagine my disgust when I repeatedly saw people going into the restricted school bus area with their private vehicle, racing their kid to the back doors where they were not supposed to be able to come in, getting in. Because these parents must have been running late, and so they snubbed their nose at all of the security that was in place and was just upgraded. All of the rules going into an area where they were not supposed to be. And those are the parents. People don't get it. They all need to be a part of the solution for safety. I mean, I don't know if any of you have went through the real life jungle that it is to go and pick up your kid and drop them off in the morning and see how other parents cut each other off and whatnot. And yeah, they'll show you where the vulnerable point is. They'll show you which door isn't being watched. We don't have a good system in any of our schools, because they can say all this and they can say this and that. But when it comes down to it, you'll have people who still want to get what they get faster than anybody else. Excuse me. I still am bothered by the wildfire smoke in the air. So I am enjoying glazed lemon loaf Tazo tea. Have you guys ever tried it? I put it in a big Starbucks venti cup. And I put 2 tea bags, and I put some creamer, like French vanilla creamer, and with 2 tea bags in here. It is amazing. It's like drinking dessert. I really like lemon. I really like the flavor of lemon. I made a lemon cake a few days ago, and I managed to get 1 piece of it. It was a hit. So anyway, I lived in a very small town in the 80s. And bullying in that small town was a sport. Okay? The popular kids were favored by the teachers. Those popular kids got grades they often didn't deserve, but they were popular. And they continued to be popular. And they were so popular that then they would go to college and they would come back and teach in that same school. So then they would do the same thing again to the next class and favor the popular kids with the popular teachers, and the same cheerleaders and the same football players were teachers and students and teachers and students. And the rest of the 90% of us, well, we were dog shit, basically. Okay? We didn't get time with the teachers. They didn't care about us. There were cliques. And everything was about being popular and honoring what that clique said about who was cool and who wasn't. And in my very small town, the kind of bullying that took place involved, for one specific boy, being held underwater by you with your feet, so boys would take him and hold him upside down by his feet and hold his head underwater in the toilet, school bathrooms, the disgusting toilets, hold his head underwater and flush. It's basically waterboarding. Would he go and tell on him? Why? Nothing would happen. Nothing would happen because the ones doing the bullying were the popular kids. They were going to go on and be sorority. They'd have to do hazing there. Just mere practice, you know? And I was a victim of extreme bullying. I was very small. I was very tiny. I was a sickly child with asthma, and when you just would go for school pictures, you'd line up the shortest to the tallest. I'd be the little nugget that was the shortest, and I'd have to be holding the sign for the classroom every time. Now, when I got pregnant at the beginning of my junior year in 1988, that was not cool. I was the Hester Prynne of my school, of my town, because it wasn't cool to keep your pregnancy. At that point, there had not been one girl who stayed in school pregnant, openly pregnant. Okay? And this was the beginning of my junior year, October of my junior year. I found out I was pregnant. I would come out of my one classroom to see my locker vandalized with the word slut, whore, etc., etc. The bathroom where I would need to go into, it would say my name with lipstick on the mirror and whatnot, say I was a whore, blah, blah, blah. Going from class to class, they'd hit me with their backpacks. They'd hit my pregnant belly with their backpacks. They'd laugh and they'd point. Nobody was my friend. But I still got up every day and went to school because I wanted to give my child a better life than what I had. So, years went on, and I was watching the news one day, and that very same hometown came across my TV screen. It was in 1996, February 2nd, 1996. And all of a sudden, my hometown was all over the news. That in Moses Lake, Washington, at Frontier Middle School, there was a school shooting. In this small little town in eastern Washington, there was a school shooting in 1996. And I looked and I knew why it was going on. I knew. I saw the picture of the shooter, Barry Lee Lukatis. He was in 8th grade at the time. And I saw that he was the kind of kid that wasn't popular. He was the kind of kid who took school seriously. The one that they would call a nerd. And within an hour, with all of the chaos, I made some phone calls and I knew exactly what had happened. I knew that, indeed, he was one of the kids who was being subjected to that basic waterboarding. And I knew that he had the same vice principal that I had, that I would go up to and tell what was happening to me, how I was being harassed, bullied, hazed. She wouldn't do a damn thing. She would not do a damn thing. So I knew the backstory in my heart. I knew that this kid lived what I did, and so many people did. Of not being in that popular group, of being in the other 90%. I knew that he had been bullied to the point where he said no more. At the end of the day, he had killed 3 and injured 1. One of the 3 was his algebra teacher, and by all accounts, she, was not any part of the problem. It was that she got caught in the crossfire. And the kids that were killed, not that makes too much of a difference, but they were not the ones who were bullying him at all. It said he went in and he went on a shooting spree, and whoever was in the line of his fire was either killed or injured. He went in with a .30-30 rifle and a .357 Magnum revolver. Seeing my hometown, seeing the same administration, seeing everybody. And it was our PE teacher who took him down. He was a wrestling coach, and the wrestlers were all in that popular group too, and Mr. Lane saw Barry. Mr. Lane went up. He was a wrestling coach, put him in a headlock, brought him down, took that gun. And because of what he did, because of the heroism of Mr. Lane, he saved countless lives that day. He was so brave. Could have used somebody brave at Uvalde, But in the time that transpired after that, I struggled as a mom, because how could I bring my kids to school every day and not feel like they were sitting ducks and wonder if I was going to see them after I dropped them off? Because it was my hometown, and I was not living in that hometown anymore. Because it was my hometown, it hit so close to home. I was terrified. I later found out from talking with friends that Barry's dad had left his mother for another woman. And Barry's mom? Well, she told Barry that in the next week she wasn't going to be around. In fact, she was going to take the gun that Barry ended up using. She had that gun because she was going to go and murder her husband's new lover and him and commit suicide. So in 1 week's time, Barry was facing the very real possibility that he would be orphaned and that his mother was going to be on the headlines, and his mother, father, and the new girlfriend were going to be dead. 2 murdered and 1 murdered by suicide. So Barry, going to school, getting the shit kicked out of him every day. We didn't really have any friends. His mom was planning her suicide and murder. He had nothing. He had nothing. He had nothing to live for, nothing to look forward to. And that's the kind of person you don't fuck with. You don't fuck with a person who has nothing to lose. And Barry had nothing to lose. It's not lost on me that the Nicholas Cruz trial right now is going on, and there's that same sense of loneliness, or Nicholas felt that he didn't have anything to lose, that he didn't have a family to go home to. He didn't have a family, and we've got to look at those factors. We need to take these things apart and figure out what's going on, and all of that information that's out there, and when you report bullying, that still very much goes on today, and you contact the school and they say, well, we can't do anything because there's something going on with that other student, and we can't discipline them because there's other things going on. So then that kid is allowed to attack my kid because the other kid has a license to do so. And there's big signs all around the school that say bullying is not permitted and no bullying. So because the signs say so, it must be true, right? Because the rhetoric is that bullying is not allowed. It's never stopped. It needs to stop. It should be criminally prosecuted if you waterboard somebody. If you hold a kid up by his feet with other kids and put his face and head underwater in the filthy toilet of a school and you flush, that's what we would do to prisoners at Gitmo Bay. And that was something that was just shrugged off by administration in my hometown. Oh well. The whole system needs to change. We need to find out why and what is going on, and we need to study Nicholas Cruz, and we need him to talk. And as I couldn't understand what the difference between me and Barry was, what stopped me from going and being a school shooter? I was subjected to the same harassment and bullying, and I wasn't waterboarded, thank God. I was beaten up quite frequently because I was so little. I was an easy score. When somebody want to beat somebody up, go beat me up, because I'm not going to leave a mark on them. I just got really good at getting this shit kicked out of me every day. It was a part of me going to school, is that I had to get beaten up. Got beat up all the time. Had my appendix out, and the first day I was able to go back to school, had a huge scar because my appendix had been leaking, and it was a huge scar. Well, So I was kind of walking where I was guarding, and it was no secret, that, I had been out because, I had to have surgery. Girl comes up, punches me right in the stitches. Yep. I just got really good at ducking and rolling. Get beaten up all the time. It's just part of school. Why is that okay? Why has that ever been okay? Why don't people look at aggressive children and teach them that what they're doing is wrong? Every single one of the school shooters looks like they could be related. We need to look at the commonalities of the few school shooters that are still alive and really study them. And like I say, I could no longer send my kids to school without understanding the difference between Barry and me. So I decided to write to him. And I'd like to read you guys the letters. Okay? So, as you can see, these are from Barry Lucatus. He was at the Clallam Bay Correction Center in Clallam Bay, Washington. I don't know if he is still there, as I've not corresponded with him in years. My point in recording today and reading you these letters is to give you some insight on what really goes on in the mind of the school shooter. Are they a monster? I needed to know. But in the same token, I looked at him like he could have been one of my kids. What made him different than one of my kids? What was I teaching my kids that made them not do that made him do that? I needed to know Barry, and I needed to know how he felt, what he thought, who he was, in order for me to make sense of why I made the decision to continue taking my children to public school every day. And I wanted to know my best chance of not having my children be involved in a school shooting. It's an epidemic right now. It honestly is. We have to do something. And I hope that by me reading these letters, it will help you to glean some insight on what a school shooter is really like. And I think you'll be surprised. So this one was he wrote me back on 7/11/07. He said, "Hello, thank you for your letter. It was very kind of you, though I must confess to feeling quite undeserving of your sympathy. I have received several letters like yours over the past decade in which people recount their victimization by others. It makes me feel rather guilty because I don't believe I was victimized very much, if at all. I didn't suffer as I've discovered so many others have. Other people were capable of dealing with their problems in a decent manner, despite undergoing much worse than I ever did. Had I been constantly tormented, there might have been some justification, however small, for the things I've done. But I was not. I was simply petty and evil. I've heard from people whose adolescent experiences have left them detached and unwilling to function in society. Sounds like you've been able to transform your experiences into something constructive. For this, I congratulate you. I hope that you will be able to make things better for yourself and others. I appreciate your offer for legal help, though I'm not sure I'll take you up on it. Frankly, though I deserve at the very least to spend my life incarcerated, I'm certainly selfish enough to exploit any legal loophole I can to obtain freedom. That being said, I don't think I'm selfish enough to consume the resources of another person to do it. I'm sorry for the things you had to endure. I hope you will be able to put it behind you and avoid becoming bitter. It sounds like you're doing well, and I hope you continue to do so. If you would like to continue writing, I will as well. I'm happy to talk about anything you'd like, but please don't feel obligated. If you don't want to, don't. I do thank you again for writing. Sincerely, Barry Lucatus. So as you might be able to see on the reverse side, I wrote to him very much what I just shared with you. That I knew that he had been one of the kids who had that type of bullying done to him. That type of bullying scared me so bad that I never wanted my children to experience that. And I shared what I had endured, and I shared that the same staff had not helped me. And look at how he handled it. He doesn't blame it. He says he was simply petty and evil. Look at the way that he articulates. He should have been an English professor. He could have been anything. His grades were amazing. He was so gifted and intelligent. And I think you'll see this as we go further through here. Now we go on 8807. I must have been really in the writing mood there. So, I enclosed stamps for him because I thought that it would be difficult for him to get stamps, and I didn't want to put, a burden on it. So I enclosed stamps, and I got a naughty letter from the prison to not ever do that again. And if I did that, he'd get in trouble. And I was like, oh my word. I guess stamps are a currency in prison, and I did not know that. So, you live and you learn. So anyway, he says on 8807, excuse me, I better take another hit of meth here, right? Kidding. It's albuterol, everybody. It's albuterol. It's not meth. I know that the rumors are going to start. It says Ventolin, which is actually, it's generic albuterol. Excuse me. I'm sorry for that delay. Anyhow. On 8807, Barry writes to me, "Thank you for your letter. I really appreciate it very much. I also appreciate your concern, even if I feel rather undeserving. Please don't worry about the stamps. I didn't get in any trouble or anything. The prison simply rejects things which don't meet their policies. Inmates don't get into trouble for stuff like that unless they receive illegal or dangerous items in the mail." I must say you impress me. I can't imagine getting a bachelor's degree while raising 6 children. Definitely shows some dedication. The very act of giving birth to 6 children is a feat in itself. Yes, they do offer college courses here. Some are free of charge for inmates who are 25 or younger and have 5 years or less until their release. Since I don't meet those criteria, I would have to pay for college. However, I never saw the need to begin with. I got a high school when I was 17 because the DOC requires you get one or a GED. So he must have meant to put in a diploma right there. But that was it. If I want to learn something, I get a textbook from the library and I learn it. College will cost me at least $5,000 a year that I am better off investing elsewhere. I'm sorry you endured such a difficult home life. I can see that you feel things deeply, and much of that feeling was hurt. It saddens me to hear that you felt unloved and underappreciated. I hope that you found someone who treated you as you deserve. I suspect also that your children appreciate you. Seeing how you've been so nice towards me, I'm sure your children love and appreciate you very much. Even if they don't tell you so. Kids, as a rule, notoriously thrifty with gratitude. I do consider myself evil. Your life, in a way, reinforces my point. My parents were decent and supportive. You endured much worse than I, from every sphere of your environment. yet you manage to do good things with your life? Incidentally, what is your mother's name? I could ask my mom if she remembers her if you'd like. I know that by itself does not make me evil, perhaps merely stupid and weak. I think I'm evil because I don't feel bad enough about what I've done. I don't think about it enough. I don't suffer enough. I've thought of the people I've hurt. I've understood that they didn't deserve it. I've cried for them. But that and $1 buy me a cup of coffee. It doesn't bring anybody back. And it certainly doesn't redeem me. I'm evil because I'm still capable of enjoying myself. I think of myself sometimes and not of others. Would I ever do anything like that again? No. Do I feel genuine remorse for it? Absolutely. Nevertheless, if, say, a movie I enjoy was to come on TV a week from now, I could watch it and enjoy it. The people I've killed can't. I don't imagine their families can. They'll never be full again. They've done nothing to deserve such emptiness. Who I am and what I've done might never enter into my mind for an entire day or even longer. I can eat food that tastes good and think only of the food. I can laugh when something's funny. That's an aspect of my personality I find perverse. And the very worst part is that I'm a hypocrite. I know I belong here at the very least. I truly believe my release from prison would be unjust. But I'll still seek it if I can. That's why I think I'm evil. Think of it this way. You feel bad for me. You feel compassion for me. This is quite possibly because you feel as if you identify with me. I dare say you even think of me as a victim, but I'm alive. No matter what else has happened to me, I'm here to talk about it, but the people I've killed or not. And what if I had hurt someone close to you, instead of people you never met? Would you still feel the same about me? I never did speak with Lisa Hansen. In answer to your question, she was the principal at Frontier at the time. I never really felt as if I was having a problem, and if I did, I wouldn't have gone to faculty for help. I doubt I would have consulted anyone at all. One of the unique traits of being male, I think, is that feeling a need to take care of problems yourself. Much is made of this in the media. It's often portrayed in the sense that boys are victimized and put under undue pressure. In some cases, that might be true, but I believe it's more a matter of nature than nurture. Guys want to take care of problems on their own. You don't feel healthy or capable if you can't. You feel unable to function. You feel helpless. The problem in my case is that this was not structured. My methods of solving problems were not healthy. That is where I needed help, but I failed to recognize it. In answer to your legal questions, no, I'm not eligible for parole. Washington State doesn't have a parole system. Even if it did, I was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. The sentence was given when I was 16, though the act occurred when I was 14, nearly 15. Several groups throughout the country have grumbled about the constitutionality of sentencing juveniles to life without parole, but I'm not so sure things will change anytime soon. I did enter a plea of insanity. Such a plea mandates evaluation by 4 psychologists or psychiatrists, 2 for the prosecution, 2 for the defense, who act as expert witnesses in trial. Not surprisingly, the defense witness opined that I was not legally sane at the time of the act. The prosecution's witness opined that I was. I suppose I'll let you go now. It was good to hear from you. Thank you again for writing, and good luck with school and every other aspect of your life. Take care of yourself. Barry Lucatus. This could be anybody's son. I hope that his insightfulness isn't lost on you all. And here we go to 123 of 08. He says, man, I can't believe it's been 4 months. I'm sorry for not writing you back sooner. I don't really have an excuse, so I won't trouble you with one. Just know that I wasn't put off by your letter or anything. I'm glad your surgery went okay and you're feeling better. It's not a recurring problem, I hope. Hopefully you're caught up on your homework by now. It sounds like you're in a good place with your children, which is of course also good to hear. How is your schooling going? I suppose, and I will have to basically agree to disagree on me. It's not a big deal, I guess. For me, I just don't feel like I'm worth saving. I look at it from an economic standpoint. This world is limited in its resources. They should be devoted to worthier causes than I. I had a lifetime of opportunity and I fucked it up. I did worse to so many others. Even though I wouldn't do it again, I feel like fair has to be fair. I don't see why I should get another shot. I look at genocide in the Sudan, or at Iraq vets, for example. These people are braver and more productive than I'll ever be, but suffer worse than I ever will. There are those in the third world who would kill to live the life of an American prisoner, and they've never hurt anyone. I just don't think that's fair. My goal is not to berate myself until I'm brought to their level, but merely to keep that in perspective. It's not exactly easy for me to see myself as a victim when I think of these things. I am conscious of the things I've done, and I am remorseful. But so what? What does that help? Who does it resurrect? What does it set right? Hey, I guess I should just shut up about it. I was going to ask you, what is Vegas actually really like? It gets this glamorized image on television, but I've never actually been there to see it. I mean, I'm sure its basis is just like that of any other city, but what's on top is always so fascinating. What's the feel of the place? Is it interesting? How do you like living there? Guess I'll let you go for now. Just wanted to say I didn't forget about you. Sorry again for taking so long to respond. If nothing else, you don't have to feel bad about your response time ever again. Take care of yourself and thanks for being a good person. The world can use you. Barry. P.S. Oh, I asked my mother about whether she remembered your mom, and she said she doesn't. My mom and his mother actually were taking college classes together. And my mother, who I didn't speak with often, I do remember my mom talking about his mom saying that she ate a lot of Twinkies. Whatever that has to offer you, I just offered that. So anyway, here is offering, this is some personal details about my location I'm going to keep quiet for now. I hope you understand. So anyway, this is 9/22 of 10. I had a lot of things going, as I shared with you guys, So my surgeries, my sickness and whatnot, didn't allow for me to do much of anything other than try and stay alive. So I wrote to him, and it had been a while, so here we go. He says, it's very good to hear from you, though your news isn't particularly the best. Still, it's good you're on the mend. I've had 2 kidney stones, but aside from the very considerable pain, I didn't have any difficulties. The infirmary injected me with some painkillers. Once they wore off, I felt better. I never even noticed passing a stone. Side note, if you heard me and Kelly bonding over kidney stones last night, I have personally passed over 70 kidney stones, and I've had to have 12 surgeries for them. I've had septic shock and acute kidney failure twice, and stent placement failure 4 times, nephrostomy, and yeah, I hate my fucking kidneys. So anyway, so I was probably telling him about that in here. So anyway, he says, I'm curious about something. The medical staff told me that women who have kidney stones say they hurt worse than having children.
I was skeptical of this given the size of the children. What would you say? How does the pain of kidney stones compare with childbirth? Side note here, as me and Kelly were talking, it's a horrific freaking pain that doesn't make any sense. Your body, when you're giving birth, you know that the ends justify the means. With a kidney stone, you know that the ends justify it. You're going to piss a rock. So anyway, I digress. Sorry about that. Anyway, he says, I'd forgotten all about what I said to you about education. Well, I guess I went and made a hypocrite of myself. About a year ago, I felt I needed something to do, so I started taking college courses via correspondence. I'm going through Louisiana State University right now. However, they don't offer a distance degree, so I plan eventually to transfer to a college in Colorado. I'm trying to get a BS in business administration. I've completed courses in sociology, U.S. history, American government, economics, and algebra. I'm taking my final for Intro into Management next week, and I'm currently enrolled into Psychology, Intro to Accounting, and Business Calculus. I must admit to being wrong about not learning much about taking courses. You do retain more of the information in a lesson format than you do by simply reading the book. Still, I'm not sure if the cost is worth all that extra information. For example, when I took the college algebra, I simply obtained the required textbook from the library, copied down the assigned problems, and sent them in. There was no math in the course I didn't already know. However, the course was required for the general education core and was a prerequisite for other courses I'm taking now. Thus, it was money spent for nothing. However, I am on the whole satisfied. It's nice to have something constructive to do. Side note, I need to say that I learned from Barry in that. When I was going to college, towards the end, they were doing this stupid thing where they embedded all of the texts into the course, so then you couldn't have a copy of the book afterwards. And I love a book. I love to highlight, write up, mark up, turn pages, feel the material, go back to things 5 years later. I love my textbooks. So I hated that they were doing that, and it was really hard to read the textbooks on the screen and whatnot because of my physical challenges, my health challenges. But anyway, they were giving away all their old textbooks and stuff, so in the student lounge there would be just carts and carts of textbooks. I loved them. I learned from what Barry said that, essentially you can just read the textbook and understand, then you get some lessons out of it, but you understand the core. So I got a lot of textbooks, and I just would keep them, and I read about a lot of stuff, and would challenge myself to the questions and whatnot. So I have since gotten rid of a lot of those textbooks because I really had more than most colleges do, but as you see, I still have a little smattering here and then that are my favorite. But anyway, I want to read the last part, but the last part was sensitive to where I live now, and I wanted to keep that quiet for right now. So anyway, what he went on to say, which I would like to share, is that he said, so after that, he said, guess that's it. I'm not up to much outside of taking classes. I'm paying a lot of attention to philosophy, especially ethics. I'm trying to answer some of the fundamental questions of my life. I suppose I'll sign off. I hope you're feeling better and are not too far behind in your studies. Take care. I hope to hear from you soon. Barry. Well, what is that like for you guys to hear? For me, I needed to make him human, and to have these letters, I see the humanity in him. I see that he has compassion, I see that he has empathy, and I see that he is not a monster, that he needed help. The continuing message in this channel is that There needs to be greater resources. People in crisis need to have options. People in crisis often do not fit the picture of somebody in crisis. We need to get better about having anonymous resources for people who are in crisis. We need to have them publicly funded. We need to have a more compassionate society as it comes to people who feel hopeless and mental illness. I hope that by me reading these to you, you'll understand and maybe talk to me about how getting into the mind of a school shooter has made you think about it. What can we do to stop the shooting? I really think that every single teacher should be armed. I think that we are to that point. I don't know how I feel about lockdowns at this point. I almost feel like the kids should be shown the areas to run. If in Uvalde, those kids jumped out the window and ran out of every single classroom, could lives have been spared? I don't know. But I don't think that locking kids down so they can become literal sitting ducks is the answer. We need a better system, and we need to not be having cowards on guard for our children. When we have a school officer who is paid to protect our children, that's their job. And I really think that we need to look more into hiring former military to be our school resource officers so that they are accustomed to the stress that occurs in an active shooter situation. Because over and again, we're seeing that the sorry excuses for officers that are in that position got the job because they wanted a desk job. And they were cowardly, and it cost lives. It cost children's lives. So, I'll be looking forward to hearing what you guys all say in the comments. And I've got a few different plans this week. So I'll be in and out. In closing, I wanted to go ahead and say that on April 12th of 2017, Barry was in front of not the parole, but the not a parole board, but a sentencing review board. So April 12th, 2017, he didn't plead for leniency. Rather, he said in his court resentencing that he did not want leniency, that he will, in fact, defer to the desires of the victims' families. And for the first time in 2017, Barry was able to offer apologies for the first time. He was then 36 years old. And this is what he said, and this is how I will close. He said, "I wish I only owed an apology. A measure of the horror I've caused is that I owe much more than I can ever repay. And I have much more for which to apologize." On that note, thank you so much for listening. Keep safe, everybody.